You made it. You know, I've been playing Valkyrie quite a bit recently, and over the past couple of months, I stopped seeing her a lot, and I think it was due to the last nerf that they gave her. The nerf that they gave her made her a little bit harder to use. She's still a really powerful character in the right hands, but requires a little more subtlety and nuance about the hero before you actually get good with her, in my honest opinion. The only thing that really troubles me about the character is that how the hell do you make her look good? There's only one set that I really like, and it's the one that I'm using right now, with the cool mask and the blonde hair or the brown brunette hair. I simply do not know how to make her look good. Her shoulder pieces are cool, they got some fur, and her chest pieces, I think that's her weakest attribute, so for the love of God, Ubisoft, please give her a skin instead of all these other characters that already have top tier fashion, maybe except for Raider, because his fashion is absolutely terrible, but we have Warmonger, we have Kensei, those characters already had pretty decent setups already, and then you gave Pirate a skin too, which Pirate is already pretty cool. She has really amazing swords, cool capes with her torso pieces, and head pieces are absolutely god tier as well. So it's a little bit troublesome that my girl don't be getting any love. So hopefully, maybe Valkyrie will be getting a skin very soon, so I can just not even worry about her fashion, because I don't have the time or the know-how to make this character look amazing. Alright, if you guys do, please let me know, but I just can't figure it out for the life of me. So in this video, I want to talk more about Valkyrie and discuss why she isn't as prevalent in the meta right now. She's really strong up in the higher tiers of play, where everybody or the people that actually play Valkyrie know what they're doing. And I really want to stress that this character doesn't necessarily need huge amounts of change or even changes right now. There are way more characters that need assistance, since her ganking is absolutely ridiculous. I'll just show you guys a clip right here, but she's really strong when it comes to team fights and ganking. But you know, when I play her, I feel like there's something missing from her kit, and I think you all know what it is. I'd like to say that I forgot that her chain finisher lights, they used to be 600 ms, but they also added like a stun to it, and it also wall slides, but now they're just 500 ms with no stun. So I always thought that it was 600 ms and wondered why I couldn't really react to it and wait for the sweep or take the 600 ms light attacks, but they're 500 ms now, so they can be very scary if you're not really trying to react to her pin. So when she was reworked entirely, they removed her heavy into soft vein bash, which had a pretty cool animation, and they improved a lot of aspects about her kit. They gave her that 400 ms bash that had a full block property to it. It still kept the animation, and you can dodge out of it, weave through it, and use it within your heavies or a forward dodge, which is pretty cool. However, the startup is pretty slow overall. The time it takes for you to use that bash is much slower. However, it's faster and pretty much unreactable to most players. Her zone also was sped up to 500 ms, and it had a huge hitbox. It was probably the best zone attack in the entire game, because it would cleave everybody and be incredibly fast at 500 ms. You guys remember Zhenhu with the 500 ms undodgeable zone attack? Well, that was basically hers, and she would clip everybody. Actually insane, and give tags too, of course. So after enough complaining and realizing that a 400 ms bash startup with full block properties and had a really good range would essentially be nerfed to the ground, and so they nerfed the damage from 20 to 18, which is a lot more in line with just normal damage values. They removed also the 400 ms chain top light, which was a pretty solid mix-up overall. The speed of the zone back to 600 ms, but they kept the hitbox of it, which is still a good thing. And they also removed the bash follow-up light and heavies after a whiffed bash. I think that was the biggest overkill for the character that made her feel a lot more clunky than she needed to. Overall, I don't think she feels that bad to use. She still feels fast and tanky with a lot of feats to assist her, such as Jug, Deadly, and even Bloodlust, that make her very versatile in the battlefield, whether you're solo queuing, matchmaking with a bunch of friends, or good players. This makes her a lot more weaker in my opinion. Before, her bash could track you really far, and the follow light could actually get you as well, so if you try to roll away from her, you would have issues on doing that. So that was kind of her roll catcher in that regard, and she already had a roll catcher with her forward dodge light being so fast, and if you can't parry the 5 ms dodge light, which they made enhanced, you are going to enter her chain mix-up. And I'm telling you, this is one of the best roll catchers in the game. I swear it has huge hitboxes, and the distance that you travel is just ginormous compared to the rest of the roll catchers in the game. She's just flies at you. And after all of that was changed about her, if I'm missing anything else, which I don't think I am, she slowly faded back away from the meta and became a harder character to use. And that's the thing. A lot of people will play a hero because of meta, fashion, or combat style. Let's take a look at Magi and Pirate when they first were released. A lot of people played Pirate simply because she was pretty impossible to deal with. My goodness. The fast dodge attacks, the huge amounts of damage, the huge hitboxes on her dodge attacks or heavies, and the forward momentum of her chain bash, which would track you for days even though you were like 10 miles away from her. She would just grab you right away after a heavy attack. I'm telling you, she's trying to grab your nutsacks from a mile away. It was ridiculous. Magi was played religiously simply because he was so easy to use with his huge hitboxes, his hyper armors. You can kind of just turn your brain off and deal so much damage and have people respect you simply because you could just keep attacking and they couldn't get a word in unless you're using a full block character like Blackbriar, Kyoshin, and etc, etc. Characters that have amazing fashion such as Warden and Lawbringer beforehand, we still saw those characters really popular back in the day, even though they weren't the best in 4v4, especially if you weren't a Reactard. And if you weren't a Reactard, you'd just kind of be throwing it anyways, especially for Warden. I still see tons of Wardens that play Dominion, and my gosh, do I feel bad for them. Peacekeeper is also one that is still pretty popular, even though she's really bad, but she has really cool fashion. And the same thing goes for like old Jormungandr, which Jormungandr used to be played a lot simply because he was a stamina bully, and he was really strong if you weren't able to react to those 600 MH bashes, and it would just drain you of stamina, and you couldn't attack at all. So if you were aggressive, you're gonna have a hard time fighting against him. But his fashion was really cool, and the combat style is the other reason why people play them. Jormungandr was a stamina bully. Centurion is a stamina bully. People play him for that combat style back in the day, and they also played him for the fashion. And so what my point is that the Valkyrie, she was played specifically due to the meta. I didn't see that much Valkyrie players back in the day, especially when she had her old rework. It was okay of a mix-up. It wasn't amazing, especially in the matchmaking, but against higher levels, you kind of just get react-hearted out of her mix-ups, and she wasn't that scary unless the person was insane with the character rep 70 and played her really well and knew all the matchups. So basically, people played her for the combat style because she had a cool use on her full block. She used to be able to go really far back with her full block and dodge backwards like 10 foot, which is super insane. Her fashion is mid-tier, and she was never part of the meta. She had a lot of issues with her kit, but people still enjoyed her because of the way she worked. When it was first released, I saw a lot of Valkyrie mains really upset at the rework because they changed the entirety of the character. Same thing can be said about the Lawbringer mains out there who didn't want, you know, them to remove the heavy on impale, and they just wanted the damage reduced to like maybe 15 or 18, just like the characters that we have right now that can do heavy parries that do 18 and 22 damage and even more so. And I'm not saying every Lawbringer main or Valkyrie player didn't like the change, I'm saying a lot of them didn't. At the end of the day, these are the players that knew how the character worked and enjoyed the character for what they were because they were unique. And once you start getting the masses playing a certain character, it just means that, you know, they're a lot easier to use, they're more meta, and it feels better to use them as a character and not as clunky. However, I will say that Valkyrie's rework overall is good, even though I wasn't a Valkyrie main and I played her because of her deflect and her cool full block animations. She still has that in respect, but she just plays very slow and methodically now in a defensive way. But after she became meta, she started becoming a noob stomper and a pub stomper with her easy use of tracking people for days with her heavy hitboxes, her fast bashes, and tons of chain pressure. The noobs, the people who come home from work, the casual gamers, the people who are drunk all the damn time and are feeding revenge, those are the people that started playing Valkyrie, and Ubisoft was like, let's just go ahead and nerf her since everybody is complaining about her now, and they finally did it, and now the character is in a decent place, but I think should still use some quality of life changes in my honest opinion. I think she's incredibly strong. Have you seen her ganks? Her ganks are redonkulous with so many characters. You can confirm the sweep with a light attack on the hit stun, or you can try to time it perfectly right as her bash lands and get your finisher heavy off and her pin off at the same time. It's actually ridiculous the amount of damage she can do, and she doesn't even need that much setup. The crazy thing is that if you see someone empty dodge, you can just let that bash fly. If you try to go into your full block and they decide to guard break you, your teammate can simply just peel for you. It's really an easy gank to perform. Once you guys see it, it is actually redonkulous, and then you can't believe why she is picked in the higher levels. You know, a good Valkyrie player knows why she's still strong. It's because of her pin mix-up, her her defensive crushing counter properties, her chase tools, and of course her feats with Fire Flask, Fury Javelin, and all that good stuff. Listen guys, I'm all for keeping this character where she is right now. I think she's in a solid place, but I would like some quality of life changes to her. I don't want her to be too powerful at the moment, and what I would probably do with her is that I would allow her to maybe get at least a light attack after a whiff bash. Not even a heavy attack. If we need to add the heavy, we can go ahead and do that, but I think having a whiff light would be really nice after a whiff bash. You know, having a whiff bash in the light is really helpful. A lot of characters have that these days, especially when it comes to neutral bashes. Tiani has literally a 400 MS light attack after a whiff bash, so it's a little bit confusing why Valkyrie doesn't have it. I like Ubisoft to be more consistent on their reworks, but of course that is Ubisoft. So I already know that they nerfed the distance of how far she could travel with the bash itself, but adding a follow-up light attack or heavy attack wouldn't make her overpowered at all. It would make her have a little bit more defensive capabilities, which you do want for a character when they initiate offense. Otherwise, people can just react to the bash or the animation, just dodge preemptively, and then punish her for it, because you can guard break her after that. Do you think this is too powerful? Let me know in the comments below, because I am also on the fence about this, because one, she does have a really fast chain bash, and she is really good for team fights and in Dominion in general. So this might be a little bit overkill, but I also feel it makes her less clunky because like I said before, a lot of characters already have a light attack follow-up after a whiff bash, and characters like Griffin, Valkyrie, they feel a little bit clunky in that regard, because it's funny because Griffin used to have that option, throwing a light attack or heavy after a neutral bash, but he doesn't have it anymore, and it makes him a lot weaker in that regard. He's still a really strong pick at Dominion too, just like Valkyrie, but they definitely do suffer from an over nerf from Ubisoft. Honestly, I really think that's all she needs. She doesn't need too much, and I don't want them to over buff her either. She's strong pick, and there's just a lot of utility within her full black, and I'm all for having a character have some certain weaknesses, because her defensive prowess, you'll be able to notice it in team fights tremendously. So it would make sense for her to not have a light attack or heavy attack follow up after a whiff bash, because the bash is so strong and it's basically a full block in team fights and in duels, so it's something you have to respect. So I'm all for having my mind changed on not doing anything to this character besides giving her better fashion. For the love of God, Ubisoft. The light attack fallout would be pretty strong after 4MS bash, and she's best used for in team fights. She's still a really good duelist, but the team fighting capabilities are where she stands. And you know Ubisoft, they love to give characters so many tools and have a character basically have no weaknesses, and I'm not really for that, especially in a game like For Honor where it's competitive and team based, and I wish certain characters filled more of a role instead of just being a team fighter overall. And so Valkyrie could fit a defensive powerhouse that could set up ganks, whereas other characters like Janju could just be throwing out their attacks willy-nilly, just like Magi. So those are really all my thoughts about Valkyrie. I started playing her a lot more recently, and I was wondering why I haven't seen her that much, and basically these are the reasons that I have come up with. She's still incredibly powerful, especially in the right hands, but I'd say a little bit of a quality of life changes will make her feel a little bit better to use, in my honest opinion. Valkyrie is a character that really is enjoyable when you start to use her. I just feel like she plays a little bit slower than you need to, especially in Dominion where DPS is very important, but for my playstyle, I like being aggressive, and Valkyrie kind of stops me from doing that from time to time. She can be aggressive at certain times once you mind game your opponent, but she requires you to play pretty methodically. She does have unreactable mix-ups to force reactions from her opponents, because people will dodge attack when you're in full block, because that 4MS bash is hard to react to when you're not paying attention. So it's very powerful in the right hands, but you also need to be paying attention yourself and not just be throwing light attacks, because you will get parried consistently if you're just doing so, because they're only 500 MS now. I really enjoy the character. I like playing her. She has a lot of cool deflects, 2 deflect punishes, which is so awesome, the guard break and the shoulder pin. More characters should have diversity when it comes to using those mix-ups. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's better that less people are playing Valkyrie and aren't, you know, just throwing attacks for days and getting profit because she exists on the battlefield? Or do you think she should get some of these quality of life changes? The Valkyrie remains out there, casual players. What do you guys think? And hopefully we come to a good conclusion and she can get some quality of life changes. Probably not anytime soon. I'm just sad to see that they removed some things that made the character feel decent and doesn't make her feel that clunky. But you know, overall, I think I still do incredibly well with her. And I'm not even a Valkyrie main by all means. I only played her for, I don't know, I think I have 15 reps on the character, but I don't even play her religiously. I don't even know all the matchups either. I just feel like I'm doing incredibly well with her because she has a really good full block, really good pin, chain bash, and chain pressure. that makes people afraid of fighting her, and really good in team fights overall. So thank you for watching, guys. I'm gonna leave you guys with the rest of the gameplay here. Appreciate you guys watching, and the tier list will be out very soon, so see that in a couple of days. And that'll be it for me. SolidSol is going to bed now. Bye bye. See you later.